A couple weeks back, I took out the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and my Sony FX6 and filmed a whole bunch of dope cars in and around Atlanta. It was a completely dope shoot. I had an amazing time and met some really cool people, but I knew walking into that shoot that I was going to be doing this comparison because the Osmo Pocket just continues to impress me. And I wanted to see if this $500 camera could even come close to the quality that my $10,000 rig that I was using will be able to shoot at. Now, obviously there's a couple of factors that I knew walking into this comparison that would have to be addressed. One, the Osmo Pocket is only $500. Two, it also is stabilized on its own little miniature gimbal. And three, it has a fixed focal length of, if I'm not mistaken, 20 millimeters. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, the FX6 has a couple of limitations that the Osmo Pocket does not. One being that it does not have any stabilization, it does not have a gimbal, it doesn't have built-in IBIS, none of that. And I also don't own any lenses that have optical steady shot in them. Digital stabilization through Final Cut is only so good, but I had to be very careful and cautious with how I filmed because I wanted to ultimately see if you guys could tell a difference between the footage. So I want them to look as close as they possibly can. Now, before we get into the side-by-side comparisons, I want to just lay out some ground rules here because I honestly want you to look at these clips and see if you can tell, because I've seen both sets of clips at this point and it's a little difficult for me. But to make things fair, first of all, I am going to stabilize all the clips because obviously the Osmo stabilized, the FX6 is not. I want it to be everything to be nice and smooth, or as smooth as Final Cut can make the FX6 clips. I'll talk about it in a little bit how I was filming with the FX6, and it wasn't the most smooth process, but there were some tools that I used to help out. The second thing is I am going to be playing with the focal lengths. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the Osmo Pocket footage to match up a little bit closer with the 28 to 75 focal length range. Even though I stayed towards the wider side of that lens, that focal length range, I am going to be doing a little bit of cropping on the Osmo footage just so that it can be a fair comparison. Again, I want you guys to focus on the image quality, and I want you to focus on the color science of these two clips. I know walking into this that the FX6 has a little bit of a handicap when it comes to stabilization, and I also know that the focal lengths are not going to match up perfectly, but I want you to just focus on how does this clip look? Is it colored well? Can I tell a difference between those two factors? That's what we're looking at right now. FX6 was shot in S-Log3, a Rec. 709 conversion LUT was applied to that, and then I just colored it to my taste. On the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 side, everything was shot in D-Log, which is DJI's version of log shooting. A Rec. 709 LUT was applied to that, and then I colored it as well. So I'm gonna try and color those as closely as possible to, again, make it a little bit more fair. With all those things in mind, let me show you the clips and you determine if you can tell which one was the Osmo Pocket 3 and which one was the FX6.
You a hell of a drug. I can't get enough of you. I need you out of me. So we could be free. If we were in love, I hope I could trust in you to stay the part of me. So we could be free. If we were in love, I hope I could trust in you to stay the part of me. Wants to believe in us. Just a man, I'm just a man. Looking up to the sky with my hands up. Pray to God that we could live forever. But she left me alright for my whole life. Just a man, I'm just a man, yeah. But I feel like more than just a man with you. And if I'm gonna die, I wanna die with you. Harder, push it to the side, I see the sunrise. I hate that shit cause to my mama, you that one night.
All right, so it's pretty close, right? Like, it's not night and day difference. One thing is the stabilization. It was incredibly difficult to stabilize these clips to perfectly match up with each other to make it a fair comparison for you guys. First, I want to kind of talk about how I was able to film with the FX6 and get these shots. You saw the last video, and I'll make sure to put it up in the little cards somewhere in the top of the screen. But the last video talking about how I rigged the Osmo to my truck, I hinted at the fact that we were going to be doing this video as well. And I was actually in the bed of my truck filming all of this. And if you plan on replicating anything I'm about to say, research your laws where you stay. In Georgia, I can attest that it is completely legal to sit in the bed of your truck and also record in the bed of your truck as long as you are not on a major interstate. We were on some highways and some little back roads, and all of it was completely legal as long as I was wearing a harness. So in some of these clips you see me like wearing this like orange and blue harness, and that's exactly why. There was a harness that was connected to the bolts inside of the bed of my truck, and it strapped to my back just to make sure that I did not fall out of the truck. Now, how did I actually stabilize the FX6? I actually used my sack, and I'm gonna grab it. I know you're probably thinking, you used your what? But it's this little thing called a sack. And my friends over there at SAC, they sent me this a couple of months back. But this is like an old school like saddlebag stabilizer. And it's perfect for my FX6 because I literally just wear this thing across my body, and then the sack just sits here, right? And my camera kind of just fits in here like a little saddle. Let me get my FX6, hold on. My FX6 just kind of sits right here. And how I typically do it is I'll hold it like I normally will and just let it rest right here. And then I have an extra point of stability to help it kind of stabilize out. And I have found that this thing works really, really well with stabilizing the FX6. Now, obviously I'm not standing up in the back of like the bed of my truck going down the highway in Atlanta filming like this. I was sitting down in the bed of my truck. But what I did was on the side of my truck, I flipped this little guy over and just rested it on the side of the truck. And then the camera was just kind of sitting off the side of the truck like this. Now, the thing that I really want to focus on is the image quality that these two cameras shared. Now, obviously they're rocking two completely different sensors. The FX6 is rocking an actual 12.9, but an effective 10.2 full frame megapixel sensor, and the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is rocking this puny 1-inch sensor, and some kind of way it honestly was really, really close. I know that for some people with polished eyes, they can tell the bokeh looks a little bit different in the FX6 ones versus the Osmo Pocket ones, or you can tell with some of the stabilization on the corners of the images where Final Cut tried its best to stabilize some things, but you still get a little bit of this wobble going. Some like keen eyes can probably tell the difference, but for most, my whole point in making this video is that for most people, can you tell a difference between this $500 camera and this $10,000 camera? For most, no. And the fact that you cannot is absolutely wild. I don't know what DJI has been cooking up in the lab to even make this thing possible, but the fact that it's so comparable. I know that the FX6 will reign supreme, and if I was to have like a wider angle lens and have it like actually mounted to my car with one of those like car mounts for cameras, I know that it would produce much better results. But the fact that the images look so close for such a stark price difference is the whole point of making this video, and it's honestly really, really wild. And if you haven't already got one, you might be too late to the game because it's been back ordered for quite some time now, and hopefully DJI can kick out production to get more on the shelves because this thing has just been a hot commodity. Before I let you go, I do want to encourage you guys to head over to my Instagram. I post a lot of short form content over there, and you get to see a lot of like behind the scenes day-to-day stuff of what I have going on in my life. And also I have an apparel brand for photographers and videographers. There are over 50 hoodies, sweatshirts, and t-shirts over there specifically made for you guys that are watching this video. And at the time of making this, they are also on sale. So head over there if you want to get some apparel for yourself. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.
Been a couple months since I see my mama. No, I never been the same, and I never wanna. Tryna manifest a better tomorrow. Yeah, I ain't scared to die, scared of getting older. Scared to hear you lie.